Irish Suite by Elliot Del Borgo. Really, for the bass, there's not a lot that's terribly technical and terribly challenging. You just have to be aware of when you're pizzicato and when you're arco, and then also knowing what finger pattern you should be using. So for the most part, we're doing the major finger pattern. You're using your fourth fingers instead of your second fingers for pretty much everything except for the A string and the G or the E string. So when you're playing your C naturals or your G naturals on the A string or the E string, you gotta make sure you're using your second finger. From the top, just make sure you have a good martelé bow stroke. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And in this case, it's 6/8 times, so we're really counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But because 6/8 times a compound meter, that means we can break it down into a little more simplified version. So 6 divided by 3 is 2, so we're going to make it 2 groups of 3s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that way we can just count 1, 2, 1, 2. And basically your dotted corner note becomes the pulse. And that's why at measure 9 it feels like you're playing just the beats. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 2, 1. So when you get to 17, as you get to that second position, just make sure that we're shifting only a little bit to that C natural. So it's really just a half step shift, and then you have your B, so C natural, B, and then shift back to A, D, and then again to that same C natural, B, B flat with your first finger, and then shift back to A. Right, and the rest of it is very similar. Watch the bow list at 49. Lift, lift, and then the rest is very similar to what you did before. And then make sure you put an accent on the last note. Then we get to the lullaby. Now the lullaby is the part that we sing, so it needs to be a lot more smooth and connected. So a very legato bow stroke, more détaché rather than martelé. So it starts off with pizzicato. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Change it up the second position first. 1. Right, and then just be accurate about the notes and making sure that we get those F sharps nice and high. We do have that part at 90. Second position to E, and then back to G. It's probably one of the hardest things in this piece, but just a little bit of practice, and you'll be fine. Very legato, right? And then we get to 114, counting. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, diminuendo. And then we're going to take a small break because everybody has to remove their mutes. Basses, we don't have to worry about mutes. But then when we get to the Irish washerwoman, it's very much the same feel as what we had at the Kaye dance, which is the first part. So still back to your martelé strokes. 1, 2. come to 166, and 166 is probably the hardest part, getting all those eighth notes. You're playing like a violin on a big giant bass. So really, it's just knowing when to go to the third position and back to first position. And I would just practice it slowly in groups of threes. And then put it together. And then just keep speeding it up. And then make sure it's one, lift, and then same thing. So once you get it down, you got it down for good, right? So practice that. The rest of the piece kind of plays itself out the same way you did before. Good martelé strokes all the way through. Trying not to get legato. Wrong sound, right? We want it to be a dance. Right? So feel that it's short and it's moving through. All right, so that's the bass part. I hope it's somewhat insightful. Hopefully you got some good ideas about how to practice it, what to be listening for when you practice. So good luck and have fun practicing.